Hello, everyone. We're here to watch our Zoom meeting on responding to negative publicity. We'll be starting in just a couple minutes. Okay, welcome everyone. We are going to get started. Today we're here to listen to Lindsay Wilcox. She's from Centermost Marketing, and she has done a lot of work on helping people overcome negative publicity that they've been getting on social media and elsewhere. And so I'm going to turn this right over to Lindsay and let her get started.
Thanks, Diane. Welcome, everyone. I am thinking this presentation should take about a half an hour to 40 minutes, and then we can open things up for discussion. I will say today's topic is an interesting one because it's always evolving, especially with the increase in AI, artificial intelligence. So there's even services now that will respond to negative reviews for you. We're not there yet, but it's things are changing rapidly. But today we're the ones that are going to be answering those reviews and comments. So it's humans now. We're humans for now. So anyway, I'm going to share my screen really quick and get started. Okay, so today we'll talk about responding to online negativity. If you are a market manager, this is really where the focus is, but if you're a vendor or in any organization, if you do anything online, managing social media, or if you do anything with online marketing, this is for you. So these strategies, I actually had a lot of experience starting 10 years ago, but up until the last few years working with restaurants and helping them manage negative publicity and negative online reviews. So I have some experience in that realm, but also with obviously farmers markets and vendors as well. So what we're going to cover is why it matters, why you have to respond to negative reviews, what to do when you're faced with the online negativity, and then how to respond using the 7A formula. And the 7A formula is something I came up with based on strategies that I saw working well for others. So when we talk about online, I keep saying reviews, but it could be comments on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, online articles, and reviews on Google, TripAdvisor, Facebook, Yelp, etc. So why respond to negativity? The most important thing is customers are watching. So you aren't just responding to a negative review or a nasty comment left by one customer. You are being watched. We all know when there's something that, let's say in our personal lives, someone posts that is politically charged on our Facebook page or on their Facebook page, and you see 30 comments, you click right on those comments because you are wanting to just watch what goes down, and it's usually pretty You know, it's honestly a form of entertainment. So that's what we don't want here. We don't want something to turn into a form of entertainment by responding to a negative review and creating a kind of an ongoing soap opera, if you will. So we're going to try and avoid that, because we will all get those negative reviews and comments, and some people are just looking for a fight. And I'm not going to get into the psychology of why people do this, but we all know there's people that just want to make a scene online. So anyway, 89% of customers always or regularly read reviews when browsing for local businesses, and that would include markets too. So another way to look at responding to negative publicity online is it actually is a business driver. So you can show that you want to earn business from your customers by taking the time to write a review. People do not trust businesses that just don't answer negative publicity. And this is from a survey done by Bright Local. They help small and local businesses manage their online reputation. Another thing is you can learn from the negativity. And this is a hard one. I mean, nobody, you have to be lying if you say you like to be criticized, but deep down, you sometimes, when you're criticized, know that the person delivering the criticism they have a valid point. And a lot of times there is some truth behind what is being thrown at you online. So I like to say the truth hurts, but it helps too. And this should actually say part 2, what to do when you're faced with online negativity. You want to make sure you even know that you're being talked about online. There's a few ways to do that. Obviously, in Facebook or the Meta Business Suite for Facebook and Instagram, you can set up notifications whenever someone comments on a post. But you can also take a bigger approach to monitoring what's being said online through Google Alerts, which is free, and Social Mention, which is also free. I don't know if anyone else has another. These services will send you an email or a text letting you know when your farmer's market has been mentioned online. So that's the first thing, is you have to know that there is a banter about you online. This also will include any time your market shows up on let's say an online newspaper, and you definitely want to manage or keep an eye on those comments as well, because in most cases you can respond as the market. So it's not just social media and review sites. In order to respond to reviews, you have to make sure you actually have ownership of your farmer's market. I've worked with so many markets that don't have ownership of their online space. So whether you like it or not, your market is probably listed on Bing, Google, TripAdvisor, Yelp. Google your market, find out what profiles there are, and then set up a profile. Most of the time it's free, and that way you can start responding and managing that online profile. And that way you can also make sure that hours are up to date, locations up to date, etc. So another thing to do when you have a negative review or comment is you want to respond quickly. I mean, it does drive me insane working with smaller businesses that people expect a response within minutes. People get upset if you don't respond to a Facebook Messenger message within 10 minutes. It's most people understand, but there are a few that aren't. But definitely within 24 hours, you want to make a response. This is what customers expect. And the other good thing is you're going to be able to control the narrative so it doesn't spiral into that soap opera we talked about earlier. So anyone well-versed in psychology knows about fight or flight responses. And this is what's going to happen to you when there's a really negative review. You're going to it's just natural. You're going to either feel like you want to fight or you want to run away. And we want to let our bodies and minds work through this before we respond, just like we would in an argument with a real person. So a warning sign that you're in a fight mode is if you feel like you want to say, you know, negative Nancy, you're out of your mind, you're crazy, our customers love our market, you know, go find a new one, bye. That's like the urge you feel waiting. You know, calm down, know that this happens to everybody. But another thing is if you feel like you're overly defensive, like, no, our market would never do that. These are kind of some red flags that you're getting angry. And in extreme cases, this can lead to liability. Slander, online slander is because it's so traceable. You definitely do not want to name call or disparage anyone that leaves a review. No matter how vile they're acting, you do not want to escalate that way too. And anyone that has access to your social media profiles or your review sites, make sure that they are on the same page, because this can become a legal matter. Another response is to want to flee. And that usually takes the shape of you wanting to block or delete the comment, or just flat out ignore it and hope that no one sees it. So those are two things to watch for when you get that negativity coming your way. Another reason you might want to slow down before you start becoming a keyboard warrior is if you're hungry, angry or anxious, lonely or tired. So you can think of the acronym HALT, and that means you need to pause and make sure that you're in the right frame of mind before you go and respond. I vent to my husband and say, can you believe this person? And, you know, find someone that you can vent to and just talk it through, let out your frustration. And then once you feel a little better, then you can proceed to write your response. One thing I'm sure you've seen, especially I see it a lot on Facebook when a product's marketing or it's an ad on Facebook, and you go and look in the comments, and you can just tell that it is that beginnings of the AI responses, or it's just cookie cutter responses that someone's cut and pasted and slapped on the name of the person who they're responding to. A lot of it's automated now too, so you can tell. And that's what we don't want, unless you're managing like 50 markets and you're short-handed or short-staffed, and you might need to maybe have, it is okay to have some quote unquote cookie cutter responses, but you have to be able to modify them so that they don't appear to be so. So you might have like 10 canned responses, but then when you go to post them, make sure you customize them beyond recognition that they were made from a kind of a template. Because people can see that pretty clearly. So now we're going to get into kind of the meat of the presentation, and I'm looking, I think we will be able to kind of wrap up by 1:30, 1:35 or so. So these are the steps in in responding to a negative review or comment, and these aren't necessarily in order. I've tried to, but this is more just how to like approach what you do and how to kind of conceptualize it. So I just wrote up a fictitious example. This is based on things I've seen. So this market's terrible. The guy working at the Red Wagon Farms booth was really rude when I had to ask how much the peaches were. And then when I got home, I realized I was only given 4 and I paid for 6. So we're just going to call this Angry Annie. And she is mad and she is posting all over your page. I do find sometimes it's very small things that can set off market customers, and rudeness is always mentioned. So this is a type of review or comment that I have seen. And so this is the example we're going to work with. So the first thing you want to do, and this is my opinion, other organizations, but I always like to kind of sign off on a comment and identify who you are. And this is especially important when it's a large organization. Again, this is kind of controversial. Some people would say, well, you're just the voice of the market. But I find that if you you don't just give your last name, but I'd say Lindsay, people are less apt to be nasty, because they're even if their initial comment was very nasty, they're less likely to continue it when they know they're talking to a real person. It's easy to get mad at an organization that isn't a person, but once you add a face, it's typically going to de-escalate things. So I like to sign off with my response with my name. Another thing you want to do is you want to use the customer's first name. So this is a little science here, that when you use someone's first name, I remember this and I looked it up to be sure it was true. I remember this from a sales training I did like 15 years ago, that using a first name, it activates a part of your brain that is associated with reward and pleasure. So it makes people happy. So it's one more tool in our toolbox that we can use to kind of de-escalate what's going on in a negative comment or review situation. So assuming that it's more than just you working on this, on, you know, managing your online reputation and what's being said about you, you want someone to have authority who is going to respond to reviews. This isn't something you want to hand off to an intern, or if you do, make sure that, you know, you approve what they're about to post. And if possible, have them sign off as you. People want to feel like they're dealing with an authority and not someone that doesn't have authority, because it's kind of like the equivalent of asking to talk to a manager. People want to feel like they're being heard by the highest up person as possible. So who is the authority then in your organization? You know, it's likely you, the market manager, but maybe there's someone else. And whoever, and it's okay if there's multiple people. Maybe it's your marketing person, or it's someone in charge of operations, but whoever that is, designate them, and then they should be educated on how to respond. So everyone should be the same principles when responding to comments and reviews. It's kind of like a disaster alert system. You can have a phone tree or a text chain. Let's say you get an alert that there's a bad review out there, that you're at a wedding, you know, the bride's about to come down the aisle and you don't want to be texting and posting. You know, you want to have a system in place where there's more than one person, ideally, that can do this job and help you out. So this is a tough one, but this is, I would say, the most important of the 7 A's is acknowledge. So we all know when we're in an argument with someone that the worst thing that they can do is to just not hear your pain or your plea, or they just don't hear you. They don't understand what you're upset about. So even if the customer is irate, is using swear words, well, luckily there's filters on most platforms, but it's just nasty and mean. Maybe they're making up something you know is actually a lie. You have to, in a public forum, acknowledge that they are in pain. So if someone says, I am so angry, and then goes on for 3 paragraphs, you have to say, I am so sorry you are feeling angry. So you just need to acknowledge that they're being heard. That can do a lot to de-escalate things. And again, remember, people are watching what you're saying. So it's showing that you're taking the high road, that you're empathetic, and that you are listening to what people are saying. So back to our angry Annie, you know, we're going to say, Anne, I'm so very sorry you felt disappointed with our market and you had a bad experience. So we're acknowledging her emotion, but we're not going to say, we don't have to say, we even went so far here as to say, you had a bad experience. You did. Her experience was bad. Maybe the other 300 shoppers had a wonderful day at the market, but Annie did not. So we want to acknowledge that, and we want to acknowledge that emotion. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. We're not admitting we're wrong. We're saying, you know what, Annie, yes, you did have a really bad time in our market. So another thing, and this, again, maybe someone may have a different opinion, but I always think if you did something wrong, you just admit it, because chances are, if someone was wronged and is talking about it, other people were wronged. Could have been someone was, maybe a vendor was selling produce that was not in great shape. And so it wasn't just the person or two people that complained, it was probably dozens of people. So I'm a fan of saying, you know what, we did mess up. So if you do this though, there's ways, the word choice is so important. I don't care if you use thesource.com, but someone, let's say, said you gave us, the market had rotten produce. So we don't want to say rotten, we could say overripe or very ripe produce. So thinking of ways to just, I keep using the word de-escalate, and that's what we want to do, is just kind of dial things back a little bit. So the next A is action. So this is, I would say, the second most important thing is you really want to show that you're going to make things better. And this isn't just for the person complaining. This is, again, for everyone that is watching this conversation unfold. So this is really important. So in our example here, Annie would say, or we'd say to Annie, I talked to the Red Wagon Farm owner, and he apologized, and he felt very bad that he came off as rude. He was really busy and would never intentionally shortchange a customer. So the fact that you took time to talk to the farm is going to go a long way with the with people, again, watching and the actual person that has been offended. And again, we're admitting he came off as rude. He was really busy, and he didn't mean to he didn't mean to shortchange you. So we're not being defensive here. He's just saying he would never intentionally shortchange a customer. He's not saying he didn't shortchange you, but he's saying he never intentionally would. And that can go a long way with someone by saying, you're not telling them that they made this up or that they're wrong. You're just not, you're trying to help the farmer, show him in his best light. And the message would continue. Our market encourages farmers to display pricing, and we'll bring this up at our next vendor meeting. So that's an action item. This is something I've also found with markets. The managers get really frustrated because vendors and farmers they don't put pricing out. And it's kind of a constant battle. And so you as a market manager, you may not be able to change this, but at least you can take action and bring it up. Maybe even bring this negative review to the next meeting and read it off. Or if you have an email, say, of course, remove the name because you don't want to make a farmer feel bad, but just say, we're getting some, online reviews about customers really wanting pricing, and they're getting frustrated that they have to ask. So, this is just showing you're taking action, and you want to take action, not just because it looks good, but because it's the right thing to do. So back to Annie, what are we going to do to make things right for Annie? Because she is really mad, and you as a manager, you can't start offering, I mean, maybe you can, and if a customer is really upset, maybe you do have access to, $10 gift certificates or something, which I will say, something like that to help a customer come back could really pay off. That's a whole nother discussion about how to, what to do. But in most cases, I'm going to guess that you as the market manager, you don't have the ability to go and say, okay, I'm going to make up for this by giving you a bunch of tomatoes or something. And so what you're probably going to have to do is go and talk to the vendor or the farmer and ask them, what can they do? And really encourage them to make things right. In this situation, Annie believes shortchanged. And I would guess that most farmers, if they really felt that a customer was so upset that they really were, missing 2 peaches, I would guess most farmers would say, hey, have them come talk to me and we'll make it right. What I would suggest though is you maybe don't put that out there, because it's not so much that everyone's going to be clamoring and saying, hey, me too, I need more peaches, I didn't get enough peaches. It's just more that sometimes this is an opportunity to take things offline. And I guess you could call this slightly manipulative, but by saying, I'd like to make things better, but I'm going to tell you in a private venue. That sounded bad. I'm going to tell you offline or in a direct message. It's not going to happen for everybody to see, because that's what we don't want, because sometimes that person is just going to say, well, that's not good enough, I'm never coming back, forget the peaches, this market's trash. So this gives them a chance. They're intrigued. Well, what are you going to do for me? And so you can give an email, you can give a phone number, whatever you want to do, but see if you can get that conversation to move offline. Because you've already said, I think we're at 6 A's now. You've already put your best foot forward and made the best of a situation by taking the high road and being kind to this person. And sometimes this is an easy way to just end on a high note and be kind of have the last word. So making amends can happen. Yes, you can, if you feel like it, you can do it. Keep the conversation going in the comments of a Facebook post. But again, I would just see if you can get that conversation to move elsewhere. The last of the A's would be to end with a question that will, keep the dialogue going. So you don't want to try and shut up the person, because that's going to just backfire. We all know, again, back to an actual argument that we would be having with someone. No one likes to be told, okay, well, just shut your mouth. It's not going to work. That's why, again, asking them if they want to keep talking, but in a different forum, is helpful. But actually trying to say, thank you, we're all done here. I mean, that I've seen those kind of responses to negative reviews, and they are so offensive. It's just sort of like, here's our logic, here's our reasoning, and thank you so much, have a great day. And it's just not good. So instead you want to end with an ask. So we could say, Annie, we'd love to get you to come back. Is there anything else we could do to encourage you to return? So that would be what you can end on. And again, it's a high note. It's something positive that people can all see. And in most cases, people are shamed into behaving, and they usually start to dial down the intensity of their comments and their conversation. But if not, you can take comfort knowing that you've done as much as you can do. So I have a chat here. Ava, we are almost done. So I think this is a great question. And once I wrap this up in 2 minutes, we'll go right to your comment. Okay. Get back here. So again, here's the 7A formula. It's not something to memorize. It's just something that helps you craft those templates that you can use. Again, I think the biggest one is acknowledgement that someone's upset. I think that goes a long way. I don't see enough of that when people respond. But that is the formula. It's worked well for me and clients I've worked with. And I just want to end on a high note. This is some data that I think you should take some comfort in. And I know this to be true. I personally think it's just, again, back to those Facebook ads. When I see a Facebook ad and I go to the comments and they're all glowing, like, I love this face cream. It works so well. I look 20 years younger or something. And all the comments are a variation of that. I'm like, you know what? These people were paid to say it. So I totally agree with this, that 68% of customers only trust reviews and comments when they see both good and bad ones. So you don't want an A+, you don't want a 5 out of 5 star rating. And if you do, and you're really that great, then you should be, we need to know your secret. But it's okay to have a few bad reviews or a few bad comments, because that just makes you human, or humanizes your market, I should say. Another thing that's helpful to know is that, 7 in 10 guests only believe that the last few months of reviews are relevant. So if you had an incident 2 years ago, it's kind of ancient history, and most people aren't going to see or care about that. And perhaps the most positive thing is that you can offset negative comments and reviews with positive ones. A lot of people will sort by, I know when I go to dinner, I'll look on Yelp and sort by the most recent. So it's illegal, if not unethical, to ask for or to incentivize positive reviews. So you can't say, write us a review on or write us a good review on Google and we'll give you $10. Like, that's just not ethical. And I think it might be illegal, but what you can do is you can ask customers, you can incentivize just a regular review without telling them what to write. So if you just say, hey, review us on Yelp or review us on Google and we'll give you a $10 market credit. You're not telling them what they have to write. You're just saying, take this action and we'll reward you. So how you can use that is if you have, let's say, a dozen customers that are really loyal, why don't you approach them and just say, hey, we're trying to build up some positivity. Actually, I wouldn't say that. I just say, we see you at the market a lot. We'd love it if you could review us. And if you want to incentivize them, you can, but maybe just asking them, they'll feel flattered. So you can ask for reviews. You just can't specify what's going to go in that review. And that's a good strategy to use if you feel like you are getting a lot of negative reviews and press online. That's a way to offset it. I mean, it can even be, I'm sure offhand, 10 shoppers that just are diehards of your market. Well, just contact them and say, hey, we're really looking to, we know you love the market and we'd love for you to share what you think of it and be honest. And chances are they will leave you a glowing review. So those are some happy notes to end on. But with that, I will stop my part of the presentation and then we can go into the discussion. And to kick off our discussion, Ava said, what if the negative comments are about an employee that was let go and you can't talk about it due to personnel privacy issues? I would just say that. I would just say, we're sorry, we can't discuss this. You can contact me directly. Because if it is legal or something like that, I mean, that's in a way, you're solving that problem by saying that that employee is no longer with you. I mean, I would assume, and I would check with your lawyer, but I would assume there's nothing wrong with saying, Angry Annie is no longer with us. You can, if you have concerns about, please contact me directly. Riley said, what if the negative comments are from one vendor to another? I would see if you could get those vendors, if you could talk to them offline. So at the next market, or if you could call them and just see if they could, because explain to them they're hurting the market. They're hurting their own business because they're looking petty. We can't say those words, but that it really is unprofessional for the market. And if they have issues, they really should talk to you, the market manager, or find a different way to address the situation. So Ava's saying that's what she's been doing. Awesome. She's acknowledging their pain and frustration and thank them for their feedback. Yeah, it's really kind of what most people's natural instinct is to do. Once you've taken a few moments to compose yourself, if you're feeling that flight or fight response, but that's what we want to do. I mean, we want to show compassion because people are upset. I would ask, does anyone have anything, or how have they handled something that's just like a blatant lie? So maybe something that's just not true, and as a market manager isn't true. I'm just curious, because a lot of times I find people are telling the truth. They maybe are blowing things out of proportion, like in the example I gave, but for the most part, I haven't found people are actually making things up or being slanderous, but I don't know. I'm assuming that does happen. Or does anyone have any strategies that they've used to deal with a negative review or comment?
Lindsay, let me tell you about one of my farmer friends. He has a farm stand and he got a lot of bad press on Facebook last year. Some customer wrote in that they had a bad experience. They were overcharged. They had a whole laundry list of things. He didn't respond quickly. He waited over a week before he finally responded. By then he had a ton of people loading on.
Yeah.
His response was not to acknowledge anything, but to say, our prices are what they are because we have to pay. And he went down this long laundry list of his expenses.
Yeah.
When that was done, that it didn't help me any. Then it turned out that some people were being charged for one thing, some people were being charged for another. And that was part of their complaints. And instead of saying, well, this is what our policy is, maybe all of our employees aren't getting the message, he just kind of trashed them all. And so in my mind, when he finally responded, which was, almost 2 weeks later, and it was this huge, long explanation, which basically, in my mind, said to everyone, you're nuts, I'm moving on. I mean, now he's got to overcome the negative response he had to all the negative comments that he got.
Yeah, and I think I know, because I remember we had that was one of the incidents that kind of sparked this talk, because
Right.
you reached out to me, you're like, that what a disaster. And what's so interesting is it didn't have to be a disaster if he hadn't or she hadn't waited a week. And my guess is, if it's the business I'm thinking of, they are actually very active online, so they took a willful stance of not responding. Like and which is even worse, because the customers know that this farm is active on Facebook and Instagram, is watching and just being indignant and saying, I don't really care to respond to you.
Yeah.
So that was a big fail. And sometimes you think you can trick yourself into saying, well, I'm just ignoring one or two people, but no, you're showing your true colors to thousands of people. Because again, what I said earlier is people check reviews, they check or they check comments. We all do it. It's something people do, and there's no way of tracking it either. It's not like you can go on Facebook and say, well, how many times is this? You can see how many interactions, but you don't know how many times the comments have been viewed. So it's because it's not trackable at this point in time. We like to think, or this person I think is thinking, well, maybe not that many people are seeing it, but I'm guaranteeing you thousands of eyes have been on that non-response.
So now that he has made it worse, how does he overcome all of this? What does he need to do now?
I would just address it. I would make a post. I would say, make a post and say, there's an incident that happened, and I regret. Be honest. Again, I always think transparency is good, but be honest and say, I made a mistake by ignoring this, and I want to clear the air. Another thing that the person could do is go back to that comment thread. So if it happened on Facebook or Instagram, it doesn't matter. You can still go on there, and it depending on how customers' notifications are set. If they had previously commented on a post and then he went back and posted, they would all get alerts that there was, a new comment, or their comment had a response.
Yeah.
So if he really cared, he could go in and individually, the people that were part of that discussion and said, me too, I feel the same way. He could personally go and reach out to them on that comment thread. And I know I said earlier, it's good to kind of, if you can, kind of take things once you've said your piece and acknowledge them and take it offline. In this case, you want to do the opposite, because you want to show that you really are remorseful and you made a mistake. So you would want to say, hey, I know this incident happened a month or so ago, but I want to make amends and I want to talk to you. So please give me a call. So you do want to kind of since so much time has gone by, you do want to be transparent, because you technically could message them on Messenger, but by this point, thousands of people have probably read this. So, any other thoughts on this kind of situation? I'm sure we've seen it where it's like just something really bad has happened and it's just made worse by the responses.
Yeah, this is Beth Irons. I just want to add that, experience has taught it's tough enough to deal with an unhappy customer or an unhappy co-vendor. But if you don't go through some of the steps that you pointed out and make sure that you're always coming from a perspective of respect and professionalism, just remind yourself that it's twice as hard to overcome your own oh crap, the word just went out of my head.
Your own,
Um,
it's not in my head
come to me.
either.
It'll come to me.
Yeah,
It's like
No,
you
it's-
make your own problem worse because you react instead of address.
yes.
So damage control, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah,
You create your own, you know, damage control is also, is always twice as expensive to deal with as just handling the problem and moving on.
yep.
Has anybody else had any experiences with your own market or your farm or somebody that you know that you want to relate that we can hash around?
I guess this is Jackie. I guess I'll throw something out here that I even hesitate, but you can give me advice about how we should have handled it. Last year, we were promoting a big event that we were having at the market that was going to be a lot of fun, a lot of activity at it. And of course, everybody, all the cities in the US have, their violence has picked up or had at least last year. We're pretty safe here in this neighborhood, but there have been years that were tough. This past year wasn't anywhere near as tough as it was for a lot of places. Anyway, we were doing this big promotion for this event and somebody posted, do we need to wear a bulletproof vest? Well, one of my volunteers just immediately blocked him so that that person could not respond again. And now I'm not so sure that that's what we should have done. But at the time, it felt like that was okay, because how do we think that one through quickly and respond correctly and
Yeah.
make the world
I
feel
do,
better?
you bring up a really good point. I do think, so deleting is not a good idea. Blocking the person from your page is not a good idea. But hiding a comment is, if it's really like that is, you know, that's a pretty rough comment, and it's pretty, it would scare off a lot of people. I don't think there's anything wrong with hiding the comment. Do all know about that on Facebook, you can hide a comment. So what that does is it hides it from other customers. But the person who made the comment and all of their friends can still see it. So it's kind of a good damage control so that you can get your thoughts together and write a response. So I do still think you should eventually unhide it. But another thing you could do too, again, if it's a comment that's like just really meant to, you know, although in that situation, like you said, there had been some violence, he or she may have been saying something that was on people's minds. So maybe that was an opportunity to reassure people by saying, we are aware of the violence, but we want to assure you that the market's a safe space. Here's what we're doing to make sure it is. We, you know, as the manager, I keep an eye on things. There's a lot of families and children here. This is so it might be a chance to be reassuring, and maybe post a picture and say, come on, you know, come on down, and kind of address that, because again, it may have been something on other people's minds that they just didn't want to say. And that's what I have found. Some people, you know how we all know people with no filter. I mean, they're the ones in the online environment that have no filter, and they'll just say what's on their mind, but sometimes it's what other people are thinking. And so it can be an opportunity. But again, you can hide that person until you gather your thoughts, like you said. And then you can, once you're ready, unhide it if you feel that it's going to benefit other people. How do people?
Thank you.
This is Sophie. I put something in the comment, but I figure I would chime in. And I have used that feature that you're talking about, hiding, because it also sort of can buy you a little time while you figure it out without riling anyone else up. But I used to work for a meat company, like a sustainable local meat company. So I have a lot of experience with people online who like to, I don't characterize all vegans like this, so I hope nobody takes it as such. But I find a lot of what I deal with online, and this is the most recent example on our Facebook page. Like this particular person wasn't the worst example, but it is definitely the most recent. And they commented that they loved one of the vegan sandwich vendors, but still so disappointing to see so many dead animals at the market. And again, not the worst that I've experienced, but a vendor who is a meat vendor contacted me offline and
Yeah.
said, just so you know, that person is not interested in engaging in like any type of healthy conversation or debate. It's just purely like, trying to vilify and
Yeah.
completely negate any positive work that these people do with animals or in the meat space. And, I do find in that realm of like, once you kind of understand that somebody's intention is not to engage in any type of conversation or dialogue, it's mostly to just spread or espouse their opinions at any cost, and certainly at the cost of wasting your time, I think at the end of the day. So I don't know if others have dealt with that on social media or otherwise, but
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean, in that situation, if the vendor, I thought you were going to say they started a conversation, which would be, it probably would not have gone well. So it's great that the vendor contacted you directly. But if it does sound like like he maybe tried to approach or message the person, get a healthy dialogue going.
right.
But if someone is just in it to get their viewpoint across and use your market, and maybe they don't even shop there.
Yeah.
In that situation, I still probably wouldn't block, but I would liberally use the hide button, because if they're an activist and they are just again using, maybe they have a message that they cut and paste for every market in the New York State or Northeast. I mean, that does happen. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing a polite response but then, hiding it. Because you're right, it's not going to achieve anything, and it might be an example of just something just untrue, in the sense that like they haven't even gone to your market. And the reason I say that go ahead and use that unhide button or the hide button is if they are that kind of activist type and they're just using your market's Facebook page for their own agenda, they're not going to have any mutual friends. They're probably not even based in the area. And these are things you can find out. I mean, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with like Facebook stalking someone. I mean, it's public information. So profiles, see what they're about, where they live. I've seen things like that where if they have a pro dairy, I've seen pro dairy activists being a little bit heavy handed, and they are not even based here. They're based in like the UK. So in that instance, I don't think there's anything wrong with hiding it. But if you have someone that's vegan that's saying, I really wish there were more vegan vendors or fewer meat vendors, and you could say, you know what, we understand our customers have different lifestyles and we respect them. So there is a chance, if they are a local customer person, to really show some compassion. But if the debate gets kind of heated, then maybe just say, hey, you know what, you bring up some really good points. If you'd like to stop by the market manager table, I'd be happy to chat with you. I'll probably never show up.
That was definitely what I was going to also add to the discussion is like, in addition to being in direct message, like anyone that comments on our page or other page with a complaint, I do try and proactively respond like super positively and say, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. And in the future, please feel free, if you're seeing it in real time, come to us and let us know so that we can do something about it in the moment. Because, I think we all know that like the ripple effects of one comment, while not massive, could also just be like so much more damage control that needs to be done. Whereas let's like encourage us real human beings to interact in real life in a way that can actually solve the problem quicker And so, yeah, I always encourage people like, please come visit us, come see us,
Yeah,
come
and
talk
that
to
can,
us.
yep, that's definitely effective because it's kind of calling their bluff. Kind of, it's sometimes like, I mean, we all know them as trolls, like we're all going to come across a troll, and the reason they're called trolls is because that name we don't even stop and think what it means. It means someone that sits in the dark in a dark cave, and they're trolls. Like they don't come out in the light. So once they do, they lose their power. They're not, scary little trolls anymore. So if someone's really kind of being nasty and you challenge that, or not challenge, you invite them to come talk to you face to face, they probably won't. So. Ava said someone had co-opted their personal page to express negative and accusatory comments. I chose to block this person. I would do that too. I mean, someone that's coming after you like that on your personal page. I mean, that's like over the top, and you might even. The scary thing is there are people that they're not just trolls. They're actually really not good people, and you want to be careful. And if you ever do feel like you're in danger of someone being too angry, you can contact the police. I mean, these people sometimes have all their information just right there, and just say, hey, I'm uncomfortable. What should I do about this? I mean, sometimes things do go too far. So just because it's happening online doesn't mean you're completely safe. So I know I'm contradicting myself. I say most people that say nasty things, they kind of won't back it up, but there are some that will and that are really angry, and you do want to be careful. So if you ever get kind of a gut feeling that something's not right, I mean, you are a public entity. The market is a public entity, and you're the face of that public entity. So you do want to be cautious. So I think that's a good thing to bring up. Anyone else have any thoughts?
Well, not
Anyone
hearing.
have it? Oh,
I'm
I was
sorry,
going to say, anyone have any A word to add to the list? I think I covered them all, but if there's any other, or any word that comes to mind of something you should always do when you address a negative comment or review.
I have an A word, but it's probably not appropriate for the list.
I know. As soon as I said
Come on,
A
we
word,
were
I
all
was like,
thinking it. Come on.
Yep. I was thinking as soon as it came out of my mouth. So. Yeah.
I have an
So,
A word, I have an F word, I have an S word.
yeah.
Okay, Beth, on that note.
Yeah, that's a good note.
On that, I can't wait to see everybody in Utica on that note.
Yeah.
Yes, we're looking
In
forward to seeing you
just in
all.
case a shameless plug for the Federation, the in-person market conference is coming up. And if you haven't registered, you can stay on. I'm sure both Diane and Beth can tell you all about it, but it's a great event, and I've been going now for I think 10 years, and it's a lot of fun, and a lot of great ideas are shared. So Beth is the host this year. So yeah, if anyone has questions, stay on or message them in the chat box.
Well, thank you for that segue, Lindsay. We are hosting our conference. We'll be in Utica on March 1 and 2. We have a great lineup of speakers and topics. If you want to register for a conference, you can go to our website, nyfarmersmarket.com, and look under the programs tab, and you'll find our conference and all the information there. You can also email me if you have any questions. And Beth, I'm sure is looking forward to seeing all of us there, as well as I am looking forward to seeing all of you.
Oh yeah, good places to eat, great places to drink.
Home of chicken riggies, right? And Utica greens.
Chicken riggies and Utica greens and tomato pie and half moons, and
yeah.
I know people who own distilleries and wineries and beer houses and the best restaurants in town.
Love it.
So it should be a good time. We're hoping to see all of you there.
All right.
So,
well, thank you everyone for joining me. And again, I hope this was helpful. It's just things that have worked for me, and I hope they can work for you. And good luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully there's less negativity this year. So,
Okay, thank you, Lindsay, as always. It was a lot of great information.
okay, great.
I took a lot of notes.
Okay.
Next month,
Thank-
we will be hearing from Onondaga County Department of Health, and they're going to talk to us about the health and food safety regulations that are under their jurisdictions. So join us again. I think it's February 28th. So
Thank
Great.
you.
see you all
Thank you.
then.
Have a great day.
Thank you.